Hello, everyone. My name is Tammy. I'm one of the BCBAs at Lawrence Institute for Education, and I am here today to talk about total communication, why it's important, what it is. My colleague Cassie is a speech that works with me over at Life, and we put this together to train our staff, but I want to talk to the parents about what it is, how you can understand it, how you can help your learner. So let's kind of get into it. So what is total communication and how do we use it? So these are the big questions we get. Total communication is a methodology. So really what it says is that how we communicate with the world is the way we get our needs met. And for a lot of us, that is vocally. We speak, we ask the things we need to know, we inquire, we do all of the things that in order to get our needs met, whatever that need may be. But for many of our learners, they aren't as capable of using all of the words in their vocabulary to get their needs met. So what do? Some of them gesture, some of them, reach, some of them add gestures into their vocals to kind of get things, going, which a lot of us do to kind of get our needs met. So all of that information that is being presented is part of that communication, part of the message that is being sent and then received by the communication partner. One of the best, definitions of total communication that I come across is this one here. And it says total communication includes speech, body language, facial expressions, sign and gesture, vocalizations, symbols, written words, hearing, touch, taste, objects, art, music, contextual clues, and challenging behavior. So when you think about that, that is essentially all the things that people do to make sure that they're conveying the appropriate message. Some kids can't articulate what they need, so they kind of act it out. Some people are much better at written word than trying to say what they mean. Others are better at conveying using kind of a picture symbol or a picture system. That's how they get things met. And I know those ones like hearing, touch, and taste may feel a little bit odd, but if you talk about, and if you really think about when you're little and someone presents you something that you don't necessarily like, the texture of it, you kind of pull your hand away, right? Or if you hear something that's loud, you cover your ears. Or, worse, you're presented with food that just is not something you're going to eat, and you kind of make a face like you don't really want that. Those are all parts of communication that don't necessarily say with a spoken word, here's what I like or don't like, or here's what I need from you. But they can help convey the message of that is not something I'm going to consume, or I need this from you. If I'm at a restaurant and I need some, the salt that's across the table, if the restaurant is loud, I may say what I need, but then also point, right? I'm conveying that message in as many means as necessary to get my point across. And that's really what at the heart total communication is. So as we kind of talked about a little bit, there's three main kind of categories. And really what it comes down to is you have your spoken. You have the people who vocally speak to you. So as I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you about all these things, you're taking in my words. You're taking in the sound that the words are producing, and you're, understanding them. But on top of that, you're also taking in, my hand gestures and my facial expressions and the way I tip my head or squint my eyes. And all of those things are conveying another message. And that message is part of this combination of how I convey, this is something that I'm passionate about. And this is something I think we all should be passionate about. So when you're talking to somebody and you're looking at just their body language, their spoken language and their body language should match. But when they don't, that's when we have to look at it and go, okay, which is more important here? What you're trying to show me or what you're saying to me? When you're standing in front of someone and you're talking to them about something you're interested in, and their arms are crossed and their eyes are squinty and their eyebrows are down, and you're looking at them and they're like, yeah, that's really interesting. The tone and the body language doesn't match the language that they're being, the spoken language that they're giving you. And it's sending these mixed messages. So when we talk about communication, it's this all-encompassing piece about how does this kid or how does this learner look at it and say, okay, how do I tell you exactly what I need when I don't know the words? or I'm using the wrong word, or the word that I was given, I can't say particularly well. So how do I move forward? Okay. And we see this all the time, not just in individuals with speech or communication deficits, but just in everyday life. When I'm talking to my husband and I'm doing, cooking dinner and I'm talking to the kids, I'm trying to get the homework and the dog's barking at me and he's eating the rug and he's not supposed to be, and all these things. And my husband's like, what do you need? And I'm like, I need you to sign off, right? And I'm just kind of gesturing out to the openness. And he's taking that as, I need you to sign off on all the kids' homework assignments. I need you to check to make sure that they're all done. And even though that I didn't say those words, my gestures and my facial expressions do, and they're congruent with what I'm showing him and telling him I need. So what we really want to be looking at for individuals who have these kind of communication deficits is, are they showing us what they need? Are they telling us what they need? Or are they doing some combination of both? And do they match? Okay, so before we can even do that, first we have to figure out what language or where are they at in their language and what can I expect from them. So one of the things we talk about with our staff is, before you can teach an individual the language that they need for their scenario, you have to kind of know where they are in their development. So in the 0 to 3 range, these are those very, very early years, and very early in their first year, where they're just barely crying and whining to get their needs met, right? Babies cry because they're tired and they're hungry, or they're wet, or they're uncomfortable, or they're gassy, or any number of things, because it's the only method they have to really get their needs met. And as parents or caretakers, we understand that. We look at that and we say, oh, there's something going on. You are not at a spot where you're comfortable. Let's figure out why. Okay. We don't tell them to stop crying. We don't tell them to, use your words. They're not there yet. They don't have words. So we look at that and we say, okay, this is the acceptable place for where you are. What do we do now? So we calm them down, we pick them up, we teach them, we talk to them, we do all the things to try and grow that language, to be that communication partner for them. And eventually what happens is they start to respond. So right in that 4 to 6 month age, they start cooing, they start babbling, they start laughing and giggling and all of those things in relation to their environment. So people talking to them and playing, silly games with them, and changing your tone of voice from that sing-songy to that, comforting and hushing and all of that. They start to pay attention and they start to interact. Now, this is the stage where you're going to start to see that joint attention take place. So in these very, very early months of language development, I say something and you respond. Those are the very, very early stages. In that 7 to 12 month, they become much more vocal. So in a neurotypical development, this is where you're going to start seeing those babbling sounds become more intentional. So you're going to see the ba, the ma, all of those kind of bilabial sounds where their lips are together and they're pushing sound through, right? You see those, they become much more intense in terms of what they're using them for. This is also where you start to see those gestures. I want that thing over there. I don't know what it's called, but that's what I want. Or, I need mom, and I'm reaching as she's walking by, or any number of things where those really early skills, I'm trying to show you what I need because I don't have the words yet. And even though you're telling me your name is mom, I don't have the ability yet to say that and to do that. I'm not there yet. Right toward the end of this 7 to 12 month phase, you might have some kids that really do start using those single words: mom, dad, cup, shoe, dog, all of those ones where they're hearing them over and over, and then they're starting to ask for those things. Okay. They're also going to start adding body language in more and more frequently. So you're going to start seeing that, reaching. And a lot of times this is where baby sign is really effective. So when they're asking for milk, or, they want their shoes, or, any number of things that all of those kids are looking for that they don't have the ability to say yet, baby sign gives them an option because that counts as part of their communication style. During this phase, you'll also see them start to respond to things like, hey, come here, and no, stop doing that. No, we don't bite. You might start seeing those responses. In that 1 to 2 year old phase, you're going to start hearing more and more sounds be produced. So these are your PBM, your H, which is a kind of a huff of breath, and a W, which is also not necessarily required for their lips to touch, but it's a lot of pushing of sound through their vocal cords. Here's where you might start to see that naming of books, right? They're opening up and they're going to go dog, cat, mom, Bob, things like that. They, at the closer to 2 year range, you're going to start to see them put things together, right? So read book, go mom, things like that, daddy sleep. And they're not grammatically correct because grammar doesn't matter yet. Right now, we're just connecting the ideas of these words to what they are and how they can get their needs met and how they can talk to other people. So once you have those, you should also see them follow one-step instructions. So if I tell you, as a 1 or 2-year-old, hey, go get your cup, go get your shoes, we're going to go outside. They can do some of those things pretty independently. Now, they might not be able to put their shoes on yet, but they can get them from wherever they left them. This is also the age where they start to listen to, short stories. They start being able to last through the whole song. When you're turning books with a 1 and 2-year-old, sometimes they just turn the pages, right? It's not to be done. It's just because this is the skill I have. And as a parent, I have 3 little kids of my own. I used to let them turn the page. And as they were turning the page, I would just read whatever's on the page. The story made absolutely no sense at that point because, we're skipping huge chunks. But it doesn't matter because really what we're talking about is what's on the page. So if I'm connecting the words I'm saying to what they're seeing, that's what's important. So as they grow out of that stage and they move into the 2 and 3-year-old stage, you start to hear more and more sounds. This is where your K sound, the back of your throat, your k comes in, your G sound, again, a throat sound, your F and your T, they start to use their teeth a little bit as part of their structure to create sounds and words. They also start to put 2 and 4 words together. So you're going to start hearing those kind of short sentences, like Ben feed dog, which is, my son's job, or I hungry, I want water. And you're going to start to hear those really kind of short, clean sentences come through. They're not super complex, but they get the need across. And you're going to start seeing more variety of things. You might see some prepositions like in, on, and under. Now, when I tell my 3-year-old, go put that under the door or go put that in the box, some of those things are going to still be a little bit of an error. But over the time that they finish their 3rd year, the difference between on and under or in should be pretty clear. By the end of the 3 years, they should be understood by most people. So the things that they are saying should be understood by most people. They begin to ask the why question, right? The dreaded why question. And like I said, I have 3 kids of my own, and we used to start at whatever your why question was, and I would give you whatever answer I could, whatever it was. And I would continue to answer and just let them ask and ask and ask. Because what they're learning is this conversation skill, this joint attention skill. And while it may make no sense to them, like they have no idea who the Greek gods are or why the Romans fell, they don't know. But what they do know is they asked a question and they got an answer. There's an exchange of information. And that is really what they're trying to achieve. At the end of the stage, they'll also follow some 2-step directions. So get your shoes and your cup. Let's go outside. Hang up your coat, put your shoes away, then come to the table, right? All of those things. So those are the pieces where you start to see that independence start to mature a little bit and, go upstairs and put on your pajamas. You might not be able to do that perfectly, but if you laid them out, they probably could do quite a few of those steps. Between 3 and 4, they start answering simple questions, the who, what, and where questions. These are very clear questions. Who did it? That's a person. What happened? They can kind of tell you the scenario. Where was it? It was in the house, in the yard, in the playground. And those are very cut and dry. When you start getting into the how and why, those are much more abstract. So those don't develop at this stage. Asking a 3-year-old why they painted on the wall is not going to yield an answer that you're going to want because they're not going to be able to tell you. They also at this point can start doing rhyming words, right? That's where these songs kind of come back in. So the Cat in the Hat, red fish, blue fish, one fish, two fish, all of those things. Those are good sections because they start to create those connections between words they know and words that they may hear once or twice and how that shapes their language over time. This is where you also start to see the beginning of pronouns. So specifically I, you, me, and they. So they understand who I am, right? It's me, and then they understand who you are. But this is where we as a group and they as I'm not part of this group really starts to emerge. So when you have kids who are understanding, the language and they're talking about it, they don't say, that, they'll say we went to the park, not they went to the park, unless if they were there. So you start to see some of those things really emerge. They should be understood, again, by most people. Familiar and unfamiliar. So this is where that novel third party comes in. If they're out at the park or they're in a grocery store and they start telling somebody their name and their brother's names and whatever the case may be, most people should be able to understand them. Your sentences are starting to get longer. So sometimes they're 4 words, they usually include a noun and a verb, and they can kind of talk a little bit about the events of the day. So when you bring your 4-year-old home from school, from preschool, from early kinder, whatever it is, and you're like, hey, what'd you do today? They'll probably tell you, I played outside, right? I painted with Sophie. Those different kind of really, this is an event that happened and I can talk to you about it. They start to understand colors, shapes, familiar people. So your stranger danger phase is gone now because I understand you're my teacher, you're my mom's friend, you're people I go to school with, you're so-and-so's parent, and they start to be able to do that. They also can respond from another room, meaning they recognize the voice, they recognize the intonation, and they can yell to you, what do you need? So when I yell to my 4-year-old upstairs, hey, where are you? And she says, I'm in my room. She understands what that exchange of information is. Toward the end of these 4 years, that's when you're going to start seeing that when and how. Okay. So when is a timeline. I have to be able to understand the concepts of time, yesterday, before, tomorrow, earlier, later, soon, all of those kind of more abstract concepts. And what you often see here is kids will say, when can we go to the park, right? When are we eating dinner? And you can give them a time, 6:30, but that doesn't matter because they can't understand the clock. What they're trying to figure out is that close or far from now, right? Where in the timeline of where I currently am, where are we? And that's one of those things that starts to develop. Between 4 and 5, they start to make the remainder of their sounds. Now, there is a little bit of a caveat here in terms of the blended sounds, your CH, your SH, and your TH. Those come closer to the end of your 5th year. And L and R are common speech deficits. That does not necessarily mean your kid has a speech delay. They are oftentimes a little bit behind in developing those letters, or they intermix them a little bit. And generally until they're about 7, most people won't even address it. You can still shape that if it's just those couple. If it's more than that, then there should be an evaluation that takes place. But at this point, they can start telling you about letters and numbers, using sentences with more than one action word. So I went on the playground and I was jumping, or I went down the slide and I was swinging on the swing and I was jumping, on the wood chips. And they're able to talk to you about those things. They, at this point, can tell you a short story. Doesn't always make sense, but they can tell you a short story, all of the events of the things that happened. They can alter their language due to the location or the listener. So a good example is my daughter. When my parents are around, my grandparent or her grandparents, when they're around, she knows she has to speak up for my grandfather or for her grandfather because he's almost deaf. So she has to yell a little bit louder, and she picks up on that as we speak louder. So, when we go into the library and everybody kind of hushes, she also hushes. And that's where I'm looking at it and saying, okay, you recognize that we're in a location where you need to alter your voice volume. 3-step instructions. So now we're getting more and more complex. Go upstairs, get ready for the shower, brush your teeth, go to the bathroom, right? All of those things. And they understand the orders of first and then. So, hey, first we need to finish our dinner, then we can have dessert. First, we need to pick up our room, then we can read a story, whatever that case looks like. But they can understand that there's a first and a then. That kind of goes back to that time as where do we exist on the timeline? And then this is a good one. This is where you always hear, little ears. They understand most of what is being heard around them, even if they can't repeat it. So when we talk about little kids and what they can and can't do, remember that their understanding of language comes long before their expression of language. Okay, so what happens now when you have an individual whose chronological age does not match their developmental age? So you have an individual who's 7, they point to something that they want and they say, right? They're asking for something. And in this case, it's a doll. So they say, and they're reaching. And then you say to them, doll, it's a doll. And then you kind of wait for them and they reach again and you repeat it again, doll, to see if they can echo what you're trying to tell them. So then the next time when they ask that thing, it's now connected as a idea that this sound, doll, means that I get access to this thing, the actual doll. And that's where we try and really connect these ideas. I understand you're reaching for it means that that's what you want. Let me help you get it faster next time. Let me tell you what the actual label is, so that when someone else is asking for it, or someone else is here and you're asking for it, they don't have to guess. Or you can ask, when it's maybe not around, when you can't see it, that you want the doll, and then they can come and get it for you. This is another one. We want to talk about context. So there's a young lady that I worked with. She uses an AAC device. So all of her vocabulary is on like an iPad tablet structure. And she pushes single words to make sentences. And sometimes the context of the words, or the way she navigates the device, isn't exactly what she's trying to tell us. So on her device one day, she said, "Nail polish mom pink." And I was sitting with her and I said, "Oh, your mom has pink nail polish? That's really cool." But then she pulled out her nail polish. And really what she was trying to tell me was that she wanted her mom to paint her nails pink. But because she doesn't quite have the use of pronouns yet, she had to go with what she knew. And we had to use that context to say, "Oh, no, you're not trying to tell me about your mom's nails. You're telling me you want mom to paint your nails. So now we have to figure out how to get you to know that you can ask your mom to do that. Let me teach you how to ask your mom to do that." Okay. Same thing with this one of 14-year-olds put into groups, and he's supposed to be asking his peers questions about themselves, but he really struggles with that kind of language, spoken language interaction. So what can we do? What can we do to assist? And this is something that's actually really common in a lot of positions where that written language is pre-put out for you. Here is a script of things that you can ask, right? And in this case, we're teaching it as here are a couple things you can ask to get the ball rolling, and then you can maybe feel more comfortable asking more specific questions. But a lot of jobs have a script. When you call into a doctor's office, they have specific things to ask you. When you call, to make a reservation, there's specific things they ask you. And those are all written prompts. Those are written down as these are the things I need to know from you in order to move forward. Okay, and this is the one we always get caught up on. Challenging behaviors are communication. It's something isn't right. I'm not getting my need met, and I don't know how to tell you. And now I'm frustrated that I don't know how to tell you. So here's where I'm at. So a lot of times when we have a client that is engaging in a lot of problematic behaviors, it's because they either want something they can't have, or they need to get away from something, whether it's a feeling or a person or a task, whatever it is, it's I'm not okay right now. And because I'm not okay, and I can't tell you I'm not okay, something needs to change. And a lot of times, unfortunately, it's in these challenging behaviors, sometimes in the form of aggression, sometimes in the form of elopement, sometimes in the form of property destruction. Whatever we lump it as, what it really comes down to is they don't have the ability to tell us, "No, I'm not okay. I need something else. This is too hard. It doesn't make sense." Like all these things that we have learned over the years to advocate for. "Hey, I need more help. Can you tell me one more time? This doesn't make sense to me. I'm trying to rebuild my engine and it's not fitting. Somebody come show me what I'm doing wrong." And a lot of our clients and our kiddos with some kind of a language delay really struggle with that skill because it doesn't come naturally. It's not something that just kind of develops and then you're okay and you can ask for help. There are plenty of adults who still struggle asking for help, and they are fully capable of producing those words. So what's the barrier? How do we help them advocate for themselves? And this is the one thing that I really want to make sure we are teaching is communication isn't just about you and I having a conversation. It's about telling me what you need and me being able to help you. So if you're hungry, can you tell me? If you are sick, can you tell me? Is there a way you can show me that you are not all right now and that this is too much, you're overstimulated, all of those things. And if you can't use your words, I have to be really good learning your body language to be able to tell you, "Okay, I see that this is maybe a little too hard. Let me help you out. Let me see if I can make it easier. Let me show you a different way. No, you're not ready to do this. Let me tell you a way that you can tell me no so that I can help you in the future." We don't have to go through this challenging, aggressive, possibly dangerous behavior for you to be able to tell me, "I'm not doing this right now." One of the things that we do talk about is modeling language to increase production. So even if an individual is not vocally speaking to me, I need to be vocally speaking to them. I need to be telling them, these are the words that connect, right? This is the object. This is what it's called. This is the concept. This is what it is. And I need to continually be doing that. And I do recognize that it can be difficult when you are talking all the time and no one's talking back. I do understand that. But in order for us to increase their desire to do that, we have to treat them as if they can. And then we'll shape it over time. For those individuals that are using sign language, we have to use sign language in our everyday life. So, the big ones are more and please and thank you and water. And those are pretty common just in everyday activities. So when you're a kid and you're like, hey, go get your shoes, and they come over and you get your shoes and you go, hey, thank you. That's a really easy way to incorporate that into their world. So the more you can use it and the more it's deemed okay to use, you will see your child using it more often. And yes, it does take some time to get used to, but it's easy to implement. And once your child learns there's another way to get their need met, you will see less challenging behaviors. On an AAC device, and I'm going to leave these links here, you can kind of check them out. On an AAC device, some kids will allow you to use that device and show them exactly what they need. Some kids are a little more protective of it and they want, this is mine, this is my words, and you can't touch it. What I would recommend is either asking them, hey, can I borrow this? Can I show you what I'm trying to show you? And if they're like, no, you can't, please don't take it from them. Find another way. Okay. Sometimes there are lots of resources online, but if you want your child to use their AAC device, you have to show them how to use an AAC device in your everyday language. You have to show them when you sit down for dinner, hey, it's dinner time and you're going to go to groups food dinner, right? Hey, we're having chicken, groups food chicken. And we're going to show them every single time that it's okay to use that. If I want you to communicate with me, I have to communicate in the way you communicate. I can't expect somebody who doesn't speak my language to teach me how to speak. One of the things I learned, which was a little bit eye-opening for me, was that when you teach that second modality, it actually creates new neural pathways to draw the information forward, which is actually kind of a cool little thing that happens in our brains. So when we are teaching an AAC or an ASL as a alternative method to get their needs met, it's actually triggering their brain. This is how we can get this. I can't remember the name of that thing when I say it out loud, but I remember the sign, or I can find it on my device and then my brain will trigger, oh yeah, that's how you say it. So it turns into this really cool like duology where I sign thank you. And then when I see somebody, sign thank you, my brain thinks thank you. And then my mouth tries to say thank you. So we're working through those things and really rebuilding what may have been a deficit in the start. And then we're kind of building these additional bridges so that they can draw from all of these pieces to get what they need, no matter what their skill level is. Okay, I do want to talk a little bit about the history. One of the things we find often is that as kids' language stops developing, we stop expecting them to produce more language. And that is, there's kind of this fine balance between meet them where they are and stop expecting more. We want to meet them where they are. We want to teach to them and to build their skill set, but we also don't want to stop the bar there. Right? We have to say, as a parent, I need you to keep trying, and I'm going to be with you here the whole time. And I'm going to show you, and I'm going to learn so that we can learn together. And in that advocacy, I know this is something I've heard from parents a lot. You learn at a very early age to say no. And when you have a language deficit, this is often a skill that is overlooked. So it is appropriate for 1 and 2-year-olds to tell you no. That is absolutely appropriate. As a parent, I don't love it when I send my 5-year-old upstairs, say, hey, go get your shoes, we're getting ready to go. And she says, no, I'm like, I understand that you don't want to do this, but we have to. This is a non-negotiable. But when she says, no, I don't want to eat all my potatoes at dinner, I'm like, yeah, that's a negotiable. That's fine. You have to eat, this much to make sure you're eating all your nutrients and blah, blah, blah. But you have the ability to say no. So when we are thinking about our clients and our students or our learners or whoever it is, do they have the ability to say no? no, I don't want to do that. No, I'm not comfortable with this. And if they don't, we need to make sure that we're teaching it. And yes, it is, I understand there are things that you have to get done, but there are also things that they should be able to say no to that are not as important and won't be earth shattering if they say no. So we want to make sure that we are always teaching that skill. And when we are teaching, we are watching what they're doing. So we talked in the beginning about that spoken and that combination of physical and spoken language. Are we watching their body language? Are we really paying attention to all the clues they're giving us on what they're trying to say that they just can't? And that's where we kind of get into this game of charades, right? For anybody who's played charades, you know that it can be very difficult when you don't have those additional clued pieces. Like if I can't tell you what it is, or, I can only show you by pantomiming, it gets very difficult very quickly based on the information other people have. So we go back to that context. But what I will tell you is this is going to be a hard game of charades. It always is. But you win big. And the kid wins big, because once you understand each other's body language, you can understand, hey, this is what I need for you to do in the future. You don't have to hit your head. You don't have to put a hole in the wall. You don't have to break these things to tell me no, right? I can teach you how to tell me no. I can teach you to tell me you're all done. I can teach you to tell me you want more, or you want to do that again. You can teach all of those things once you know what it is. So just because they can't say it doesn't mean they don't want it. And a couple things that I've learned over the years is that the development of language doesn't necessarily follow the specificity of what they need. So when my daughter, was little and she would ask for water and I would give her a cup of water, she'd get really, really mad. And I couldn't understand, like, you asked for the water. I don't understand why this is not right. Right. So then I would give her a bottle of water and she would get mad at me and I'm like, I don't understand. Show me what you need. What do you need right now? And I would pick her up and I would walk her around the house and be like, what are you looking for? And she would show me her water bottle with a straw. She wanted the straw. She didn't have the language for a straw. She only had the language for water. So we had to go through this whole thing, and we saved hours of tantrums and, possible fighting because she needed somebody to help her. She was tiny. She couldn't reach the straws. They're up on the counter. She can't get up there. So by allowing her to try and show me what she's looking for, I saved her all of that effort that would have been wasted. And now I understand, hey, yeah, you want water, but you want it with a straw. Or you want it with ice. But if you don't have those words and they're not something that somebody's ever offered to you, how do you get them? Right? So now we look at it and say, okay, I'm going to offer you all of these things. I'm going to watch your body. Are you reaching for it or are you recoiling? What does that look like? And how can I help you through that? Okay. When you have a child with an AAC device, you have to remember that they're not just learning the words, they're also learning how to navigate that system. And when I talk to my team, this is one of the things I talk about. I'm an Android user, so I very much so am very comfortable with Android. But when I was given an iPad and an iPhone, I had no idea how to operate it. I am a neurotypical adult female, and I absolutely could not figure out all of the functions. Now, remember, when you hand a child a tablet, YouTube is probably pretty easy. It's a couple clicks. But when you're trying to teach them language and they have to navigate apps and pages and different variations of how to get there, they have to learn both the word and the concept, and they have to learn the tech. So changing it often could be problematic. So when you talk to your individual's speech therapy or BCBA or whoever it is that's helping you work through your child's language development, be mindful that those are pieces that could be barriers. So what does that look like? Okay. And how can you help them through it? Okay. The biggest thing I want to talk about is it starts with understanding and modeling. You are always modeling. You are always showing them, yep, this is your words. This is where they belong. This is how I get there. You want a piece of cheese? Yep, it's under groups, food, cheese, under snacks. If you want to go outside, it's under places outside. You have to find all of those things. Now I'm using the language I'm giving you is through TouchChat and NovaChat because that's what I'm most comfortable with. But there are multiple apps out there. There's Cough Drop. There's Prolo Quotago. There's, what are some of the other ones that are out there? I can't remember all of them, but there's quite a few. And in learning them and teaching your child them, it gives them a modality to be able to get their needs met that otherwise would go unchecked. And when you have unchecked needs, it really creates a kind of a sense of stress that is just unnecessary. So keeping that all in mind, I did put a couple of resources on the bottom here. Satillo is the company that makes NovaChat and TouchChat. There's tons of resources on there about AAC devices, not just NovaChat and TouchChat, but just in general. There's trainings, there's opportunity, and there's some links for other things. And then one of the other sites I use often is called Sign Savvy. And what that is it allows us to put in a word that we want to show our learner, and really kind of, it models it for us. It tells us kind of when to use it. And there's a video and it breaks it down step by step. So when I had a staff come to me and say, hey, my kid's always talking about pulling the flowers off the bush, but I don't know how to talk to them about it because they don't talk back to me. I don't know how to teach them that. I said, the sign for flower. And we looked it up. Like, let's look it up quick and let's just show them. It takes 30 seconds. We all have tech in our pockets almost all the time. It's an easy resource that I keep flagged. The other thing we work on at Life is what we call the word of the week. So every week, a new word comes out that is relevant in the world. So bathroom, stop, go, mom, backpack, school, all of those pieces. And we show the staff how to do it on both AAC and on ASL, so that at any point they have it at minimum those 3 modalities to get that skill taught to someone else that they can always be modeling. And I try and keep them current with wherever we are in the school. So, in the early school year, it's things like backpack, school, bathroom, stop, go, and then as we move towards the holidays, it's things like toys and family and outside and all of that stuff. So it's kind of relevant to the era of the year that we're in. And I try and do that because I want it to be relevant. I want that to be something that they're going to use ongoing. So the biggest belief at Life that we hold is that all individuals have the right to communicate, and they have the right to get their wants and needs met. Okay, just because they're not my wants and needs doesn't mean that they don't belong there as a want and a need. So we want to continue our clients, we want to continue growing their repertoire. We want to make sure that we're expanding their language skills, no matter what modality it is, to ensure that they're not being cheated, that they don't lose the right to say no and for advocating for themselves, that they don't lose the right to ask for things that maybe aren't immediately available in their environment. I mean, that's a skill that a lot of kids learn very early on. I want to ask for the things that I can't see directly in front of me. But if you don't have a way to do that, you don't have a way to show people that you want that, what do? You essentially just go without, and that's very frustrating. We want to make sure that their language repertoires match the quality of life that individual wants. So this is always my little tagline. It starts small, and it really can grow into something beautiful if you just give it enough attention. Okay, we're not going to role play because that was for my staff. There are some references here. So if you are interested in learning about the vocabulary and all of that stuff, I left that up there. You can check it out. And that's it. If you guys have any questions, by all means, feel free to reach out. Again, my name is Tammy Jurczyk. I'm one of the BCBAs here at Life, and I do these trainings for you. If you have any questions, I appreciate it, guys. Have a good day.